Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and this is our podcast, Francis Fox News from Other Dimensions. We just had a groundbreaking day yesterday, which was the inauguration of President Trump. I'm beyond pleased and very hopeful and energized by what appears like a new era, an entry into the golden age having to do with the United States and, by example, other parts of the planet. I'm going to go ahead and map. I'm a little bit out of it. I had a minor surgery today. So I always have to deal with a lot of energies. I have enemies that use psychotronic weapons because they don't want me to reach the public. I always have a lot of things. Today I have one thing additional, which is the minor surgery. And really, it was minor. So I'm going to go ahead and start with drawing the map of the United States to kind of get myself centered and to know what it is that perhaps I should be talking about and revealing other dimensional happenings. Okay, so here's the map. And let's see if I can position myself to where you can see me sketching. So today's the 21st. Okay, don't know what this is. But this part of the United States corresponds to relationships, this part here. This part corresponds to prosperity. And it's a cut on this part of the United States, the prosperity part. And certainly we have California there. Now, there's been throughout probably more than 100 years, there have been psychics and prophets that have predicted, and remember, the future is elastic and plastic, that the United States and other parts of the world also, but we're talking about the United States right now, will be cut into pieces. And some parts will become islands and they'll separate from the continent. So, not sure what this is. Let me keep going. Here, Florida, South Florida, you have the energy of heart, the energy of healing. And this part corresponds to helpful friends and trips, travel. And the color green means it's healed. Doesn't mean it can't go south in 2 minutes, but it takes more than 2 minutes, but it looks really good. Here, where you have Washington and New York and all that area, we have a good spiraling counterclockwise, which means rooting and grounding, and we have green. So this is the first time I haven't literally sketched the color red on top of New York. And remember that in Europe, for over a decade, they've called New York the city of hate. Excess fire. People don't know that's excess fire element. And when you have an excess of the fire element, you have frustrations, anger, insomnia, anxiety, hatred, emotional violence, physical violence, and then suicide. It keeps going up. The more fire, the more tendency towards physical and emotional violence, and the more suicides. So this is the first time in probably 6 or 8 years that I do not sketch the fire element out of control in the New York area. This is very, very, very good news for this country. So we have in the Gulf of Mexico, we actually have a heart. Okay? So I guess the energies in the pyramids that are in the Gulf of Mexico are not cranky that Trump wants to change the name. I'm not sure that the name is that important, even though I have to say it was a shocker for me when I heard that he wanted to change the name, because if you're not from the United States, you say America, you say the United States, it's the same thing. So when you think something's going to change to the word America, you feel that it has to do with the United States. which then makes that move very territorial and not so great to the outside world. But it has to do with what culture you're from. So America is United States. It's not Mexico, okay? And it's not Central America. So, but there's a heart there. So there's happiness there. And there's more pyramids. And pyramids are what stabilize the three lower energy centers, which have to do with prosperity, security. The second one is sacral, which sexuality. There you go, population collapse. Creativity, manifestation, and joy. And then the third one is solar plexus, which is the garbage can of emotions and has to do with personal power. Those three, the pyramids that represent that, there's more of them. This is looking really good, other than a whole section of the United States. It might be interesting to find out where those volcanoes are. I think this is Hawaii, right? Where are those volcanoes? Where do they fall in terms of this map? Sometimes I worry because I take the map literally, but it's been actually decades that I do maps, and generally we can take them literally. It's not like, oh yeah, but you just sketched that. There's a reason why my hand went there. I'm not controlling it. Okay, so this looks good. So we have, if I can find the pen fast enough, we had a purple pen. What did we do? We have still the Merkaba, which is the symbol that we call the Star of David, and it's a symbol of protection throughout human history, more than 6,000 years. It's used in Judaism, okay? But has nothing to do with Judaism. It has to do with a symbol of a structure in the other dimensions that gives protection. And you have that in the United States. Okay? It's a little bit pushed this way, but then we have this thing right here. There's some interesting things happening in the center where the heart center is, which is Kansas. There's like a bubbling of this red area energy. It's red is fire, but I think the heart is controlled by the fire element, but it's a bubbling. I don't know what that means, but basically this looks really, really, really good. Now, I don't have a map of Washington, D.C., but right now I would like to sketch Washington, D.C., but I do not have the map, so it's going to have to wait. I've never sketched Washington, D.C. We've worked in Washington, D.C. We worked on Washington, D.C. last week and this week to support a graceful transition of government in the United States. It's interesting, and I'm sure that I said it here, but maybe I didn't. When I went to the University of Miami decades ago, I got a degree in political science, which is kind of weird. In retrospect, it's not weird, but at the time I was getting it, it was kind of weird because that certainly didn't seem to be anything that I would be interested in. I have to tell you that a degree in political science is basically worthless. You think the hard science is bad today because it's being controlled by business people? Political science. Zero value, in my opinion. Remember, this is my podcast. These are my opinions. And you take it and you put it together with whatever you know. But remember that I'm trying to widen people's lens. Why on earth would you call this political stuff science when it's not? But so I was going to get a second degree, a master's. And interesting that as my thesis, I was going to write about institutionalized violence as a form of governmental change in Latin America. We're talking 1969. Why on earth would I have chosen that? I don't know. But instinctively, I actually chose what I'm working on today without consciously making a decision to reach this point, which is the way you need to look at your life. You may be doing things and you don't know why you're doing it, or other people say, why are you doing that? I don't know why I'm doing it, but this kind of feels like what I should be doing at this point. Well, but you need to know, where you're going. You may be being guided by a part of you that knows a lot more than you know. So when I chose that as my thesis, and I did not finish my master's, I barely even started. I opened a business that is still alive today. It's my daughter's today, and she runs it. She's a much better business person than I am. Um, but it's interesting that I would have chosen that. I mean, who would think? Institutionalized violence as a form of governmental change. And I think that the transition of governments in Venezuela is going to not follow that paradigm, which is why it was so important for the people that follow me, where we work together, the Mantristas, that we support that there be a peaceful transition of government to stop the pattern. When something really bad happens, it creates an impression in the other dimensions. In your mind, if it happens to you or you witness it, or in a country's aura, that impression is called a vasana, Vasana, and it's a deep rooted impression on the mind, and it's the basis for karma. So if you have a god awful revolution for governmental change or for taking over whatever, the country where that happens, it leaves a scar, like a rut in the road. So when your car goes over it or your life goes over it, you are going to be affected by that scar, that rut in the road. It's like a knifing, and there's consequences. So what's happening in Venezuela, and I don't have any details because I don't ask for details. I need to work in the other dimensions. If I don't like what I see, I go ahead and work on getting that cleaned up, knowing that on the physical dimension to get cleaned up. You need to do that with your life also. All is not over until the fat lady sings. Well, when does a fat lady sing? Sometimes she already sung in the other dimensions, at which time, basically, whatever you're doing, you're going to get no place because it's already dead in the other dimensions. Remember how I've told you I don't do that anymore? That's really intrusive. I would see my friends, whatever, and I would say, you're going to have cancer in 2 years if you don't do something. What? I don't have, do I need to go to the doctor? I don't have cancer. And I would say, no, don't go to the doctor because it hasn't hit your physical body yet. But it's inside of you. It's on its way. It was in their other energy bodies. And when you take care of it there, it's called preventive medicine. And when it hits the physical body, then sometimes you can go to the specialist in preventive alternative medicine, but sometimes you need a regular modern medicine type person, especially if there's damage, really big damage to the physical vehicle. You might need surgery or whatever. Like I told my daughter, it doesn't really matter what happened to me. Even if I look like I'm dying, you do not take me to a hospital. You do not take me to a place that creates the third highest level of deaths in this country, which is medical mistakes. Third cause of death. I said, you do not take me to a hospital. Besides which, the intelligence community, people like me can't have surgery without people being present from the intelligence community. What? To prevent what? Whatever. I remember the first time when I had back surgery decades ago, and I remember they were doing some kind of procedure to figure out what it was that was the matter with my back. And I remember turning to the side, and there was this four men standing there. Wait a second, this is private. What is this? Anyway, so I lost my thought with all my little stories. So this is looking really good. We need to find out what the heck this is. And a couple of observations. The planet is, in terms of planetary history, in a cycle that is ending. This planet has been a planet of duality, light and dark. We've battled it out, humans, amongst ourselves, country groups against group, within the family. And this is the point where light and dark is supposed to integrate. So, how would that apply to this country? If you go ahead and do what has been recommended, if you have a problem, you have to ask, why did I need this problem? And I believe I discussed it yesterday or the previous podcast. Why did the United States need this problem? Well, what problem am I talking about? My God, this country was totally controlled by the intelligence community. Totally, absolutely controlled. It is only now that regular people are finding out about it. And it's like a shocker. They're shocked when they find that these big sections of the intelligence communities have done terrible things. They still haven't woken up to the fact that we have been totally controlled by the intelligence community for decades. How did that happen? Intelligence community, intelligence, what is that? Information. I'm an information expert. I'm a product of the intelligence community. Information. We're in the age of information. I don't know how long we were in the age of information, but we left that age and we are now in the age of transformation. The age of information, you had Google. I always thought it was funny because I was not addicted to my cell phone because I know cell phone radiates microwave and I don't want to be microwaved by my own device. So, and I remember being at the dinner table, being with people, and somebody would say something, and somebody would say, I got it, phone. This is what it says. The conversation stops. You look at Google, it has a piece of information. That's it. Bingo, the person, their self esteem is higher. They have a piece of information, and we are now more enlightened. Meanwhile, the human relating bucket of cold water on it doesn't continue until that piece of information, whatever. But we're not there anymore. That's why when we talk about bypassing Google, it's not that big a deal. We can say because Google is behaving very badly, it's not that big a deal. We're in the age of transformation. People want to transform. They can't stand where they're at. But it's not perhaps that people have behaved so badly. It's because this is a new cycle. The stuff that really worked before and felt good and before, it doesn't work anymore because it's a new cycle, new rules. And we have to transform and adapt. How does that apply to the United States? This transition from Trump having been a victim of the intelligence community and all the others that whoever's controlling that, now it's a question of getting in. It feels like it's a question of getting in control, but there has to be an understanding of how did we let this reach this point. It's not a question of pointing a finger and say they are bad people. First place, there's no bad people. They chose to take on negative energies as their part in this game, and it is a game. The first time I heard that in the 90s, I was like, come on, I don't buy that. It is a process. We human beings, we're like I was a lab rat, and things still happen today that are being watched and checked. How do I react to this? Why am I still operational? Why am I still healthy? They're still looking. This battle of light and dark is a process, and the hitting of the two together is not supposed to be for the guy that just took over, in this case Trump, to go ahead and do in the dark, because what they do is they're pushing it down when actually what needs to happen is it needs to integrate. I am not being critical of anything he's doing. I think he's doing an incredible job. I think he needed to go after this all at one time, because if not, I can tell you personally, I would not feel safe. You can't just, we're going to do this and this is the worst one, so we'll do this and we'll make an example. It's been too out of control. So if we are at a place where light and dark are supposed to integrate rather than clash against each other, then how do you move forward? How do you do this? I don't know. But if you ask the question, why did we need this? Because if it happened, we needed it. It's part of our karma. We need it. The definition of karma is bringing to you what it is you need, not bringing back to you something bad because you behave poorly. Now, it can be bringing back stuff, just like what you did to other people, where you behaved, we would consider poorly, and then somebody behaves poorly with you. So you'd say, well, that's karma. You got your karma. You behave poorly. No, you didn't get your karma. You got that, and it kind of shows you because you already did that over there. And it's showing you something that you did so that you can see it so that you can feel it, and so that you can seek resolution of it. So that that scarring in your mind is gone, that imprint, and then you don't repeat. So where do we go from here in order to be part of the planetary process of integration of light and dark? Asking the question, why did we need this? We kind of know how we got there. There's some baseline things that still need to be revealed. But why did we need this? We needed it because we were asleep. And my example is perfect. How can I tell? How can 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people hear my stories in the 90s? Not a single person, except for one person, said, how do I help? And how did this happen? And what can we do to stop this? Nobody. The easy way out for most people was to think that maybe I was making this up. Well, but Frances is not a liar. Yeah, but you never know because, I mean, if she's not making it up, then that means that there's something god awful happening. And apparently, nobody, you know what? Bottom line, let me not go through all these little examples. People in this country feel impotent. Feel impotent. Something created a movement and energy of where in this country, as powerful as we look to the other countries, we feel impotent. We do not think that we can have a change. If something happens that's awful, we can complain a little bit, and then we just have to take it. How did we end up feeling so impotent? Now, oh, this is interesting. Why until now, with Trump, it seems it's going to be different. Where is power in the human energy system? It's in the solar plexus, which is 6 inches above your belly button. The solar plexus has several organs on the physical dimension. It's got the liver, the spleen, the pancreas, the gallbladder, all the digestive organs, the colon, stomach. It's called the garbage can of emotions. And it is where our personal power is held. Nobody feels personal power in this country unless they're behind the scenes and they were working with the dark. What happened to our personal power? And you know what? We need Kennedy. Our food, and I would never have thought 6 months ago that I'd be talking and saying this in terms of food, even though I know it, but not as this big an influence. Our food, digestive tract, personal power, solar plexus chakra, food, colon, stomach, gallbladder, liver, spleen. Now, the spleen is interesting, not the spleen, the pancreas. The pancreas is the organ that has to do with happiness. And when you're not happy, you get diabetes. The day you decide that you are never going to be happy, you look at your life and you go, this is never going to work for me in terms of happiness, not money, happiness, then pancreatitis kicks in. So those are the elements. So then we're not happy. Oh, here we go again. That's why I love explaining things to people because then I learn. We have been a very materialistic country. And we're going definitely opening up to the other dimensional parts of us, which is spiritual. Even if it's bad and ugly, it's still spiritual. And we have not had an integration of our religions or spirituality into our routine, our daily life, or into our businesses. So, who's going to come to the rescue there and is helping this out is Elon Musk. By the way, I made a lot of money last year because of him. I invested in something I really believed in, which was him and his cars, and I did very well. Now, if I had been traditional, I would have looked at it and said, "Let me be safe. I really like him. I want him to succeed. I want to be there." And I didn't. I said, "No, this is what I want." Okay, he brings to the table spirituality. And what has it done for him? Apparently, he didn't have a lot of personal power when he was young. He got beaten up a lot. I think that maybe, I mean, they paint it very nicely, but I suspect that even though his mother was very supportive and all the rest of that, the stuff that he was talking about was very advanced. And I can tell you, people don't like advanced stuff. They want same old, same old. I need to understand it. He wanted what he wanted. He believed in it. And I think he probably didn't get a lot of support, but he was on a mission. And that mission included helping humanity. And I think that is where this country can get back its personal power. If we understand Elon Musk as an example of what can be and of what should be, which is you can have your materialism, which is something I didn't believe before. You can have all of that, but you better be in love with what you're doing. You better love what you're doing. And it needs to be something that helps humanity. You know, the scientific studies where humans are the happiest when they're helping others, that needs to apply to the business world. That does not mean you work for free, okay? And that doesn't mean a lot of things that we thought it meant. Like when people talk about Jesus Christ, he didn't, the money thing. Jesus Christ lived in an area that if you gave him food and a decent place to sleep, that was a compensation. What's the big deal, guys? As the Buddha said, contextually appropriate. So in telling you this, I am feeling better because we have an example that feels good, looks good, which is Elon Musk, having to do with the integration of the spiritual with the materialism that's so important for this country. You don't go after the materialism, you go after what you believe in, what feels good, and what helps humanity because that makes you feel good. And then you can reach those heights. Trump is a very spiritual person. He has a type of spirituality that is very much a continuation of what we have had on the planet. There's nothing the matter with that. But he's really bright. And I know that he is enjoying Elon a lot. But I think he also recognizes that the example that he's giving is very good. It's really good for young people. It's really, really good for young people. This man who has this incredible vision for things that people don't think is possible. And he not only made it possible, but he made more money than anybody else without hurting people. Anyway, enough for today. I will look into at another going on here. So I'm going to give you a mantra today, which is going to probably afford you a lot of relief in terms of anxiety and crankiness. And the mantra is, even though I hate everybody and everything, I love and accept myself. Now, the people that say, "Oh, no, I don't hate anybody." Okay, this is not a chat for you. It is impossible to live today on planet Earth with all the extra fire for you to not feel frustrated unless you pay a lot of attention and do a lot of alternative techniques to reduce your fire. If you live on a beach by the water, and you don't sleep with your cell phone, you probably could say you're happy. People are not happy. And when you're not happy, you end up being cranky at everybody. So just do it, or just don't go into the emotional dishonesty bit, because it probably means you haven't looked internally. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And let me write it, and I will focus on it so that I don't make all my usual spelling mistakes. Okay, here it is. You repeat it in silence and you expel through your mouth. And when you do that, all of these muscles here, which are the ones that, they get more oxygen, they get more relaxed. Yesterday was a traumatic day for me. If you look at my right eye, you can see that the eye is closer to my nose, which happens not just to me, but to everybody if they have a huge trauma. That is a spirit that is standing here of depression, okay, that moved in more yesterday. Yesterday was a scary day for people like me. And for a lot of us, it was a scary day. So I'm working on that. And then within several days, you should be able to see it. My eye will be more centered. I don't know if you can see it here, but I have you can't really see it. So it's better. I got that darn wrinkle on the other eye that has to do with emotional trauma. This eye has to do with safety. So again, when you sit across the table from your children, from your mate, from people, their face will tell you a lot. And remember, the eyebrows have got to be across from each other. If not, you have a problem. You cannot have this unless it's from plastic surgery, at which time you can't have it, because it means that your two parts of your head are not working together. And that doesn't make for wise decisions. That makes for problems. Okay. Somebody here said that Mexico is also America. Yes, I'm explaining to them, Ani, that the way people from out of the country view this, of course, Mexico is in America, and so does Canada, so is Latin America. So that's but from out of the country, when people say, I'm going to go to America, they're not talking about Mexico. Yes, Mexico's in Mexico. They're talking about the United States. That's why the change of the name was probably a little bit shocking for multiple millions of people, because it was like just talking about the United States. I'm hoping that wasn't Trump's intention. And if it was, we'll deal with it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do the subconscious Fox sensory therapy with this particular piece was done by Mateo Cuaron. We'll do 10 minutes. Okay. I decided to go ahead and look up that black thing right here that's hitting the United States. This is coming from Russia and the Bering Strait. This is not an attack at all. This is a problem that Russia has also. This is what's called a miasm. A miasm is a congestion of negative energies, emotions, and spirits. And in Venezuela, there is a miasm that is on the road between Caracas and their airport. And 2,000 people have died there. It's on the asphalt and it's like a little bit gooey, and the government cleans it and it comes back again. They don't know what it is. They call it the black stain, La Mancha Negra. I will write the name here, but I'm going to talk about this a minute because this is really important. They have some of this in different places. In terms of, I went to a producer of actually the number one show in Telemundo, which was the court show, La Doctora Polo, took me to see a home in Miami Beach, an apartment. And the woman said that there was a spirit in her apartment that was going to kill her cat. So when I got off the elevator to go to the apartment, I went, where's the electric room on this floor? And I knew that it would be right next to her apartment, and it was. And the electric room was the wall of the electric room was right on the wall of her bedroom, which is where she had the spirit. Here's the problem. And of course, I knew she wasn't going to believe me, but remember, I'm going to say what I get. I am very accurate. I'm going to say what I get. If it doesn't fall within your belief system and it makes me look bad, there's nothing I can do about that other than know that the phrase, the crazy lady's not so crazy, la loca no está tan loca, at some point, the person is going to say, you know what, she wasn't so crazy when she said that. Look, it happened. It took 5 years because I can see it in the other dimensions first. But anyway, I knew she wasn't going to be happy with what I told her. She had this miasm on the wall that was next to the electric room. That miasm, they did a movie about it, 50 years ago? It's called The Blob, which is like a gelatinous substance, but it has consciousness. It'll go after you and it'll kill you. And that is what this is. It's not just in the Bering Strait. It's from Russia and it comes all the way here, but it's not sent by Russia. This is something that is landing also in Russia. If I had a world map, I would go ahead and draw that now. So here's where we go with what are we going to do in this country having to do with dealing with the fact that Revelations includes a lifting of the veils between dimensions. It includes being able to see spirits, being able to see the past lives. It includes about 1,000 times more than what we see on the physical dimension. If you do not accept that, which is the spiritual part of life, it's not physical, it's spiritual, okay? If we don't accept that, then all we're going to do is have weird stuff happening here. Now, the one thing that for a while can take care of that miasm, La Mancha Negra in Venezuela, was limestone, which is heavy earth element. That means that this area, and this is not just the United States, it's not coming from Russia, it's also covering part of Russia. That means that we're missing earth element here. What does that mean after that? I don't know. I've never seen a miasm that big. This is very preocupante, which means very worrisome. I wasn't expecting this, so I don't really have very much more to say, but it will be a problem. It is a problem. Now, we are becoming part of the Galactic Family. The Galactic Federation is helping out the planet and the places and the countries that reach a certain vibration, like Venezuela did and the United States did also last week. They can come in and they can help out. But there's going to be a lot of weird things happening, and this is one of them. And unless you work with the other dimensions, nobody's going to know what's going on there. Now, I'm going to say another thing. When my group we went together to try to put out the fires in California or to make a difference there. I wasn't really interested in working on the fires. Something told me we're not going to make a difference there. And so I know that some of my followers, a lot of them are from California, and I'm sure they thought that I just wanted to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. No, my instinct said, we're not going to make a difference there. And now we find out that these were not perhaps natural fires. So it really wouldn't matter how much we had worked. We weren't going to make a difference. So where's the other place that happened? One was Bolivia, when we did the 20 countries. And we were told not to go in to try and purify the other dimensions of Bolivia, the whole country. We had done it with like 18 countries. And it was because it was a portal. It was a big black hole. We weren't going to make a difference. And there's another place where we went in and mainly because of my followers, because we don't do Europe and the rest, whatever, just because instinctively it doesn't feel like that's where I need to be, which is where we can make the biggest difference. So we went ahead and we worked on Ukraine. And I knew when we got there, and I finally said, because a lot of my followers have developed their remote viewing because I have the power of induction. If you're in my presence or you're hearing me on a podcast, whatever, your psychic abilities augment. And a lot of them were great before they even met me. Okay. My God, I'm really impressed. But we're working in Ukraine, trying to put out the fire because we don't work on the political issues, trying to put out the fire because if you have that fighting, you have fire. There's no other way on planet Earth. I mean, that's just a law, a rule, or a truth. And I could feel, I said, you know what? I know you want to keep working here, but I am not going to throw myself up against the wall. We're not going to make a difference. I don't think we should be here. I don't think it's safe for us to be here, and we're not going to be here as a group that I'm leading. Okay? I am letting go of Ukraine. So there's something going on in Ukraine that has nothing to do with an excess of the fire element being the basis for the war there. That is not what it is. Do I know what it is? I don't. Do I want to look? No. But it is not the usual, like New York City had the excess fire and became a hateful city. A lot of the crimes that were committed there and have been committed lately, they didn't need to be that ugly. They didn't need to be that mean to the person they were killing because of the excess fire. And the excess fire in Ukraine, I could not see what that was not the basis of what was going on there. So somebody may want to look at that one day, or maybe with Trump not throwing more money at it. I'm just giving you information as I get it. So this is not good. Now, when I was married, and people would ask my husband about me and being a psychic, he would say, I don't know anything about psychicism. I do know that you can see stuff coming down the pike before it's coming down the pike. This is coming down the pike. This is really big. I mean, the size of it is really big. So, no, I never got involved in the Maui either. It didn't feel right. And there are issues as to the fires being perhaps unnatural, at which time it has to do with human factors, and we don't get into that. That needs to be resolved some other way. So here we are, the end of the chat. Thank you for joining me. I didn't take the time to ask you if you felt better after doing the mantra of even though I hate everyone, I hate everyone and everything. Somebody here just say they started to feel nauseous. And when that happens, it is because you're hitting up against spirits. And that's one of the symptoms. But the good news is you're moving the energy, and that spirit is not just sitting there and has not taken up, it may have taken up residence within you, but it's no longer as comfortable. It needs to get up out of its lawn chair, or it's lounging on the sofa because you're shaking things up. That mantra is really good. It's really good because all of us are very frustrated because there's an excess of fire on the planet. Okay, global warming. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. By the way, I think I have to go back to the homeopathic remedy called graphite, which is for when people talk too much. I realized it this afternoon. I was trying to explain something to somebody, and I could tell baseline he doesn't really believe any of this stuff. And number two, I was not expressing myself well. Now, it doesn't help that the Cuban mafia is doing an incredible amount of black magic on me and my communication and my contact with people. But still, I'm going to go back to graphite homeopathic remedy. Okay? Love you. Bye.